Thank you, Mayor Elorza, for your time this evening, for your vision for these spaces, as well as the thought that you have given to what the space has been and what the space can be. Throughout the past 6 months, we have had the honor of talking with hundreds of people and collecting thousands and thousands of individual thoughts and ideas about the past, present, and future of Greater Kennedy Plaza. And we have worked hard to honor your voices and your feedback by integrating it into the design process for the project. Today, I'll share a few slides, and in each of them, you will find an image from one of our engagement activities, as well as quotes from participants. I won't read the quotes, but I invite you to do so as I walk through the slides. It feels impossible to summarize so many different ideas, but there were a few things that became clear throughout this process. So many of you identify with Providence in an important way. It is the capital, but it's also a creative place full of life. It is where you live, work, and it's where you play. And so many of you identify deeply and meaningfully with the spaces of Greater Kennedy Plaza. You saw and expressed the importance of these spaces as our city center. They are spaces that we inhabit every day. You take the bus here, you walk through this space, you meet friends, and you go here to be inspired. And many of you claimed this as a space, an important place for community, for coming together, including for protest and civic expression of many kinds. And this is something that kept coming up and feels important to share. So many of you asked that we name and help dismantle systemic racism. We acknowledge that systemic racism has shaped our city in ways that affect BIPOC populations on a daily basis. And we also acknowledge that our city can be inhospitable to LGBTQ plus community and other disenfranchised populations. And yes, we must work to build a more just and equitable city. Now, this project is not the solution because no one design can solve these complex challenges. What this project can do is strive to create more inclusive spaces and places. And that starts with creating a more expansive process for engagement. And while I know that engagement work is never done, I can confidently say that we worked tirelessly to provide multiple avenues to engage with the project and provide feedback, including multiple well-attended public meetings. These are the first two, and then there's tonight. As well as 2 surveys that collected more than 1,000 responses together. And between them, thousands upon thousands of individual comments, thoughts, feedbacks. And we also engaged in many other forms of engagement that you'll see throughout this course of the slideshow. In our surveys, we heard about all the ways in which you wish to use these spaces. You want to meet friends, to eat and drink. People of all ages said that they want a playful space. You want to go for a stroll. You want to see a concert. You want a space that is comfortable. You want Wi-Fi, and you want clear and visible signage at the site. And yes, you want to take the bus there. We heard from so many of you how important transit is to these spaces, to the project, and to the city. We spent hours and hours interviewing community members at Kennedy Plaza, many of them transit riders. And we have heard how you currently use these spaces and how you want these spaces to be improved. We also heard from many of you that designing for all ages was important. And there was definitely an emphasis on the importance of designing for youth. So we held focus groups with youth, and they were fun. And we got to integrate a lot of great youth voice. And we got to hear about how important Greater Kennedy Plaza is for taking the bus, but also for meeting friends. And youth of all ages expressed an interest in play. You also shared a concern about the future. You push the team to have vision and to plan ahead for the impacts of climate change, which often disproportionately impact our most vulnerable populations. At the beginning of this project, we asked you to imagine the future of Greater Kennedy Plaza with us. Your vision was exciting, and now I have the pleasure of introducing the design team that has taken that vision and given it shape in the design work. In a moment, I'll hand it off to the design team. We will have Alban Basue provide an overview of the project. Erin Forrest and Yasmin Bovis will walk us through the urban design and architectural elements. Greg Tuzolo will provide an overview of the landscape. Marissa Brown will share some of the cultural narratives that have shaped and will shape these spaces. Gideon Darkangelo will share some of the digital overlay and the user experience in these spaces. James Conway will share the vision for transportation and mobility improvements on the site. And then we'll circle back to Alban, who will share a little bit about implementation and a site walkthrough. And with that, I will hand it off to the first presenter, Alban Basue.